So inshallah, this afternoon I want to talk a little bit about the spiritual crisis that many of our youth and indeed many of our adults go through. We live in an age of unprecedented access to knowledge. We literally have at our fingertips the ability to Google or see whatever we want to on YouTube. We can learn practically any skill. I was talking to a brother recently. He's learned swimming and welding and sword making, all from YouTube. It's incredible the number of things that you have access to learn, whether it's on YouTube or other free media. Just about anything you want to learn, for that matter, good or bad, you can find access to learning without ever having to leave your own home. You don't even have to leave your home to buy things that you might need for that particular skill. You can just order it, have it delivered to your home, watch the video, and learn it in your home, and so forth. Unfortunately, we tend to confuse knowledge with wisdom. And we tend to believe that just because we have access to all this knowledge, that it means somehow that makes us any more intelligent than otherwise. A number of years ago when I was in the university, I had a friend of mine who I knew in Egypt, who had lived in Egypt his whole life, who managed to make his way to the U.S. and attend the university. And he was engaging in a lot of things that he really shouldn't have been engaging in at the university, in terms of inappropriate relationships and so forth. And we would try to give him some good advice in nasiha, saying, look, brother, come join the MSA, come, stay away from those things, it's not good, and so forth. And he became very full of himself. What do you guys know? You guys were raised here in America, you don't know anything. I'm from Egypt. I had a masjid on every corner, Quran on the radio, anytime I would turn it on, Azhar University. You guys don't know anything. To which I responded, yes, brother, but you never went to the masjid. You never played Quran on the radio. And you didn't attend Azhar University. So it's only a weight against you, in fact, that you quote all of those things. Because yes, you're right, you had access to all of that knowledge, all of those scholars. You're raised with the tongue of the Quran, and yet clearly you accessed none of it. And it's only a weight against you. We need to understand that our deen is not simply a dogmatic faith. In other words, it's not just a list of principles and rules and regulations. And it's unfortunate that too often, when our youth ask us questions, the most common answer is either it's haram or because Allah said so. Now, that doesn't change the fact that, yes, some things are haram and some things we do because Allah said so. But the reality is that the vast majority of our deen is something that we have an understanding of what we do and why we do it. So if our youth says, well, how come I can't date? The answer should not just be, it's haram. It should be, here's the detailed explanation of why it's haram, and what in particular is haram about it, and what's problematic. The beauty of our deen is, in fact, that we have the answers to all of these questions. And even if you put Allah aside, if you will, the answers are valid. In other words, you can talk to an atheist and explain why in Islam we do something, and they'll have to come to the conclusion, you know what, you're right, that is the best way of doing it. Which, of course, only makes sense because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is infinite in knowledge, knows the best way of doing things. And He only gives us that which is best. So He only tells us to do something because it's good for us, and He only prohibits us from doing something because it's bad for us. And it's not arbitrary. There are reasons for it. Now, that doesn't mean that we have an answer to every single action that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses to take. We can't explain every instance of qadr. Why did this thing happen? Why did so-and-so get sick? Why did so-and-so die at this time? Allah knows best. We don't know the mind of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for all of that, Allah is not on judgment from us. As was mentioned in the khutbah today, we can't hold Allah and take Him to court and say, we're questioning Allah, why are you doing this and that, and you have to prove it to me. Because at the end of the day, our mind is not the highest order. And this is one of the things that we have to be careful of, because this society wants to teach you that science has all the answers. We want to teach you that man, the human being, is at the top of the chain. And that if I, as a human being, can't understand something or it doesn't make sense to me, well, then it must not be right. Although that in itself is a fallacy, because there's no single human being in the world who everything has made sense to them and that they had every answer. Even the most brilliant individuals will have to admit that there are things that don't make sense to them. And perhaps later on with time, some things they come to understand. But it's not the human mind that's the judge of things. And just because a human mind can't understand something at a point in time, doesn't mean that it's not so. So I say that to say, this spirituality crisis that many of us go through is something that is self-inflicted. It's something that's self-inflicted. And it's something that we need to understand that we have the answers in our deen, and therefore we should not be afraid of the questions. Too often, we're afraid of getting questions because we don't know the answer. But I encourage you, within your homes, among your circle of friends, encourage questions. Because there are answers for all of them. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there's an answer for everything in the Quran. There was a scholar who once was giving a presentation and he mentioned that. And so someone in the audience said, really, because I had a question and I looked everywhere in the Quran, I didn't find the answer. The scholar said, what was the question? The man said, how do you bake 100 loaves of bread? So the scholar said, well, let me research in the Quran and I'll tell you tomorrow. So they came back, and the next day, the man said, so, did you find my answer in the Quran? And he said, I sure did. He said, what's the answer? He said, you bring 40 pounds of flour and this amount of water and this amount of yeast, and you mix it and you let it sit and you bake it. The man's jaw drops open. He says, that's exactly right. I'm a baker, and that's exactly right. But tell me, where did you find that answer in the Quran? And the man said, well, if you look, you'll find the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلُ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and ask those of knowledge if you don't know. So I went and asked a baker friend of mine, and that's what he told me. The point being, we have the answers in our deen. And if you don't know, if your kid asks you a question, so, Mom, Dad, how come we can't date? You're like, oh, I don't know, Brother Ed didn't cover that in the talk. Then you come and you ask the Imam. And he'll give you the answer. And if he doesn't know the answer, he'll say, oh, I'm not sure. Let me find the answer for you. Because it's not that any one of us has all the answers. We don't. But we know people who have the answers. And if something doesn't make sense in his deen, know that the limitation is in your understanding, not in the deen. So there are times people have asked me questions like, well, I don't know. You know what? Man, that hadith doesn't make any sense. Because I know Allah is fair and Allah is good. And that doesn't make any sense. How could that be? So then I have to go and I have to ask a scholar. So I don't understand this hadith. Can you explain it to me? And then they go explain it, and now I get it. And the answer is clear. So the limitation is on us. But I say, when this issue of spirituality comes up, and we lose people to the deen, ultimately because of that, I'm going to talk more about that tonight. But it's about this aspect of not wanting to explore and explain and understand. That we should know. And I would challenge you, because sometimes we know in our heart but we can't explain it. You should have an explanation. If someone were to come to you and say, you know what? I'm thinking about changing religions and I'm considering becoming a Muslim. Why should I become a Muslim? You should have a compelling answer to give them. And compelling doesn't mean, well, because if you don't, you'll go to hell. Or, well, because it's the right way. Or, well, it's the right religion. Or, it's the truth. I mean, because those aren't answers to someone saying, I'm looking for a way of life to live. A compelling answer is going to come from within you as to all of the reasons why this is in fact the perfect deen. Despite the media, despite anything else that may be apparently seeming hard or difficult or strange, that this is the deen to follow because it has the answers to all of the questions. And then we elaborate a little bit more, but my time is short, so I'll end with that for now. And inshallah, tonight we'll talk a bit more in depth about this aspect of actually people losing their deen and things that we can do about that, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.